Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part two of the Football Uncensored podcast with me, Rob Kirton, and John Sitton. We're going to try and do a look at a bit of the Premier League for the weekend in this episode. We got a little carried away with VAR and stuff in the previous one, but that's no bad thing. It was a good debate. A lot of points made from John, and I reckon we could have probably gone on for quite a while. But
Yeah.
onto the Premier League, and we'll start with a team we haven't really spoke about an awful lot because you said yourself, John, there's not a great deal of in-depth analysis for them. But Man City back on top, the game currently being played tonight, subject to the result of that. But City at the moment back on top, fairly routine win from at the weekend.
Yeah.
Probably very expected win, it's fair to say. But
Yeah.
and if anything stand out for you, I've got a couple of points I might want to put to you. But firstly, over to you. Anything
No,
standing out?
I don't think the team they played was really going to pose any problems asking too many questions. You know what I mean? What I've found is, there's got to be a stewards over a period of time. Okay, they've got more or less unlimited wealth. They can buy the best players. They've got, one assumes, one of the best coaches in Europe, if not the world. Very innovative, constantly changing, evolving, adapting to the extent where you think, okay, well, that's not new, because I always believed you've got to try and stimulate the players every day. You've got to challenge them cerebrally. You've got to try and be innovative, and you've got to give them plenty to think about to keep it fresh. And that's what he does, and that was endorsed in the press by Carl Walker. He said, you never know what he's going to do next, and you've got to try and keep up with him, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and how it should be. What the steward's inquiry for me has got to be okay, even if you've got supposedly, one assumes, I wouldn't always swear it, but one assumes lesser players. You've got to find a way as a coach or a manager to try and counter it. And there's too many teams that they don't, and they borderline capitulate. It's almost an air of acceptance. Is like like years ago when people went to the old Highbury, with the Invincibles, when people went to Old Trafford. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The game was half won before they kicked off, and that's very apparent to me with City now. Defensively, he chops and changes. He's got a lot of variety in attack. You've got like more or less tried and trusted and welcome return, I think, of Rodri. But teams don't do enough for me to ask questions of them at the back. Inevitably, when you set up how he sets up, and then what he does, he takes it maybe to a different level in the respect that I've observed after his conference sort of tete-a-tete with over the years with Bielsa. I think he picked what Bielsa said and he's modified it. And there always seems to be, my observations, including the player on the ball, 5 players around the ball. Bielsa had this theory about, which again wasn't new, disregarding the goalkeeper, basically 5 players attacking with 5 players ready to defend at any given time. City always, to me, it always seems apparent they've got a minimum of 4, normally 5 players around the ball. And then they'll have an added get-out ball, if you like. But for me, not enough teams do enough to ask questions of them at the back. So if you're going to mirror what they play, which is quite sophisticated 4-3-3 that evolves from that to 3, sometimes even 2, and then a 6, and then a 2. I think it's quite clever, and what teams should be looking to do really is maybe take a risk and be well drilled enough to have 3 players playing very high, 2 of them very wide, to see what their centre backs do. But it wasn't the case, like you say. It's a routine win, massive golfing class. if anything, the new guy on the left.
Doku.
He's a trickier, quicker version, more punishing than Grealish. Fantastic addition to the squad, and no doubt it's going to cause problems. I mean, what you'd probably do is, for me, I'd have to start with maybe 5 at the back, 2 screening, which comes from my 5 diamond 1, which would basically they'd retreat into 2 screening, so someone would have to tuck round, but I'd still try and endeavour to leave. So, all right, okay, you're going to deal with this, and leave. Once they've had that phase of play past them, maybe leave 3 players spread right across the width of the field, knowing that when you win the ball back, it's bang straight into them, and see how City react to that.
Give them something to think
Yeah,
about, to use one of
it's
the
just like
old-fashioned phrases.
it gives them 1,000,001 problems, and you basically, when you're drilling a team during the week, you've got to try and cater for every outcome, which with them is difficult because every player's comfortable on the ball, every player wants the ball, which the system won't work if they don't. Okay. And they've always got loads of options at close quarters where they play the intricate thing, but in the middle third, and then it's like bang wide, or middle, and then bang wide. And they've got some superb crosses of the ball, and ones that can, if they see the run, thread that little ball in that middle tranche down the side of people, which is where Ireland gets a lot of his goals.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, as you said, very, very fluid in attack. They've got the luxury of being able to interchange their attacking personnel. Some very different players. Doku, you mentioned, the new guy brings them something different. They've already got Foden, Grealish, Haaland's obviously a
like the Harlem
striker.
Globetrotters. They're like the Harlem Globetrotters. They're the football
Yeah,
version of the Harlem Globetrotters, aren't they?
Good analogy, like you say. Very, very fluid, very flexible.
Yeah.
Very together, very organised. Something that their next door neighbours appear to be currently the complete opposite of. I think it's fair comment to say Man United, who are. I'll read you something I read today in the paper. Slight paraphrase by a journalist. Man United are like someone who's limping along that needs a new hip, but they're refusing the operation because they can still get to the pub twice a week. I thought that was a reasonable analogy because they, like I said, they seem to be everything that City are not at the moment for whatever reasons. Any words of comfort for Man United fans?
No, not
John?
really. No. I had an exchange, and we were mutually agreed on it with an ex-United player, and he went to Exeter, and Alan Tonji. Alan Tonji's. That's how I pronounce it. Anyway, Tonji will come up against him when he lowered down at Exeter and all that. He's United through and through, proper warrior. You know what I mean? And we were looking at one of the defeat before their narrow win over Fulham at the weekend. And we were looking at the previous defeat. And he's just, I think there's so many things wrong. And it's another, I think, honestly believe, he's going from day to day with the kidology, with the high praise for the captain, the midfield player, etc. You know what I mean? To try and win the dressing room round. I honestly believe that it's another case since Sir Alex Ferguson left, where he ruled. I think a lot of what he did was tongue in cheek. You could tell he's a Mickey Taker, great kidologist. But on the face of it, he ruled the club with an iron rod. I think that it's another case now of the tail wagging the dog. And I said to Tonji, I think, ultimately he's a dead man walking. I don't think they see. You've got to be, the ideal scenario is a combination of the two, right? You've got to be either really, I think, well loved, well liked, because you come across as this player welfare, they're the most important people type of guy, like Arsene Wenger, or from the outside looking in, that's how I perceived him to be. Or you've got to be feared. Or the ideal combination, as I was about to say, is a combination of the two. And honestly and truly, I always, I couldn't believe some of what he said, Roy Keane. He's absolutely fantastic, spot on. You know what I mean? I saw a thing. I've watched it 3 times now, 4 times with the Keen Vieira thing, and he said he approached every game with fear, and that's how I approached every game. I thought it was brilliant because I think it's nice to have your feelings or your thoughts sometimes confirmed with a so-called peer, but superior peer in terms of the level he played at. And it said, and Gabriel, is it Gabriel Clark? Is it his name?
Gabriel Clark, the
Well,
journo
yeah, well,
or
he's the one
commentator, whatever.
yeah, he formulated and directed the program, I believe, the documentary, and something enemies, wasn't it? Anyway, I watched it the other night again, and then I caught the last bit, so I switched it on to the +1 and watched it all the way through again. So I've watched it now three and a half, 4 times, and I thought they both came across fantastic. But I particularly like listening to Roy Keane because he's got that clarity of thought, and it's just nice to have your feelings confirmed. And I think a lot of modern day players, particularly United, would do well to take that advice. He said he approached every game with fear, and he said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Fear of letting myself down, fear of letting my family down, fear of letting the team down, fear of letting the supporters down, fear of not playing well, fear of letting my area down where I'm from." You know what I mean? And that's exactly 100% on my grandson's life how I approached every game Tuesday night, home or away, and every Saturday. And I thought, it's not the centre forward is I'm going to be his governor. I'm not having it. And you do everything, mostly this side of legal, to make sure that that was the case. You understand what I'm trying to say? And I don't think
Sure.
I'm even looking at the thing on yesterday. I'm thinking, and it got to me, and I don't know why. It's fuck all to do with me. Nothing. The club's nothing to do with me. I don't support them. I don't particularly like them. I get wound up when people from London support them. There's one high-profile radio journalist, you know what I mean, from what the Manchester suburb of Loughton. It supports Man United. What's that about? I understand the romantic side. I've seen them. I saw them up close when I went to Highbury with my dad in the '60s, and the Holy Trinity got off the coach. I think it was either a Boxing Day game or a New Year's Day game. I'm pretty sure it was a Boxing Day game. It was 2-2, and you could see the like with the romance of it all, you know, and the European Cup after the Munich disaster and blah blah blah. But I've never got
Sure.
London people following them. You understand what I mean? But you've definitely got a situation at the moment where it's just become another club where the tail wags the dog. And I'm looking at it. So back to the original point, because I've went off at a tangent. I looked at, for all the good and for all the standing up for what he believes is right, I don't agree with players sitting on the bench with baseball caps on. I don't know why it got to me, but it did. When I see it at Fulham and he dropped Rashford to the bench, he's sitting there with a white baseball cap on. Where are we at? Where are we going with this? Well, you know what I mean? And you know, each to their own with the tats and the earrings and blah 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 and the fleet of cars. But I just think to myself, it's almost, to me, it's almost not particularly a sign of disrespect, but unprofessional. And
I'll
I
put it to
just
you, John. Sorry to interrupt.
I don't get it.
Would Ferguson have allowed Rashford to sit there with a
I don't
baseball
think so.
cap on?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he'd have brought him up differently. Because
Yeah.
what it is it's where, and it's where I've think, and I've still got relationships with them. It's where you get into their head as kids. It's where you get into their head as youth players. It's what they meant to stand for, what's expected of them, how you should try and conduct. I mean, I went off the rails big time, but I managed to pull it back again and get a living out of the game. You know, you understand what I mean? So look, from that experience, I gave them my experience of the do's and don'ts and what's expected of you and your standards that you should ask of yourself. You understand what I mean? And when I look at some of the goings on and the passages of play, because I come home and watch the highlights on YouTube when I got home from work. And Tonji said, you know, just like at least just show a bit of pride and play for the shirt, play for the institution, play for the supporters. And it ain't always going to go right. It's not always good. You're not always going to get it right. But that particular game, I thought I forget the game, but I thought that this is the wrong formation. It's the wrong team selection. I think he's leaving very dangerous players on the bench. You you've got dissent where you've got players shaking their head because they weren't bought on. It's either one cause or it's not. And
It was Sheffield United they played last week, I think. I can't remember. We did briefly touch on it. It might have been Sheffield United, but I'd
yeah,
say sorry
well,
to
then
interrupt.
they got out of jail, didn't they? With the thing, was it the curler in the top corner for the equaliser, and then was it a last minute? They got done
Yeah,
with a last minute penalty. Was it
it's.
that one? No.
I think it was that one.
Anyway,
Um, we
anyway,
digress. But
he's got a win, and it keeps the wolf from the door. You know what I mean?
it,
Because you're looking at thing. It was funny. I know what he meant. But then it's like you could take the mickey out. I remember years ago, Al Wilkes said October is the Ides of March. October is the Ides of March for managers. Right. So that's a quote from I think Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, the Ides of March. I remember reading it at school. I think I'm right. I'm almost sure I'm right.
I,
But then again, that
I
was like
defer to you on that,
fifth.
John. My
It was
Shakespeare's awful.
well, it was 50 years ago. So when I read it, but to do with the Caesar's assassination. Do you know what I mean, or whatever it was? And then so it's part of what he's saying is part of the culling process. When you get to October, you've had roundabout, including cup ties, and if you're involved in Europe, I always say. And that's how you can gauge things, how it's going to go. And I'm like, when it happened to me, I'm like, whoa, you've had about 15 games to see how can you shuffle the pack.
Yeah,
Can you get someone in January? Can you get people in on loan? No, we can't. We're losing 10 grand a week. The club's going into administration, ultimately liquidation. But at that level, I think 15 games, you should have a good idea of whereabouts you're gonna be and who you need. And I think it seems to be a constant sticky plaster approach.
Well, with City, with the Manchester club, I think it's fair to say that City are cruising along with no real obstructions at the moment, and Man United are stuck on in the middle of London behind some just stop oil protesters. In
Mm,
comparison,
mm,
it's
yeah,
yeah, a bit stark as you've outlined.
yeah.
He said about you just started to talk there before. Apologies, I interrupted you about the quote and how Wilkinson and Julius Caesar, etc., and October and 15 games, etc.
Yeah.
As we speak, no one's been dismissed yet in the Premier League, which is over the last few seasons quite unusual. There's normally one or two gone. Last year, I think, was mad and about five had gone, but this year,
Mm,
no one yet. Ten Hag, we sort of touched on. He used the phrase "dead man walking." Maybe was winning at the weekend, a big saving point for him.
yeah.
Is there anyone else that you think should be worried about
No, not really.
potentially
And
picking up their compo shortly?
yeah, I was going to say I won't be. I don't weep for them too much because they get a few mil compo, and then they could sit back and then take the missus, to a few shows and do a bit of shopping in the run up to Christmas. Have a great Christmas. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas I had to go, you know, uh, first of all, mild mannered, well mannered, to ask for a bonus that I was entitled to, having got to an area final with a Auto Windshield trophy, which then turned to, a little bit more. I worded it a little bit differently, put it that way, to get what I wanted. And then I got bid down, and I said to Barry, if you're that hard up for 300 quid, keep it. Give me the rest. That's how he operated. Yeah, I wouldn't shed too many tears for him in that respect, but I can't see anyone. I think it'd be unfair because I think they'll be gone by Christmas. Burnley, I think it'd be unfair to do anything with company. I still think he showed yet again over the weekend they suffer from massive sort of idealism. Sometimes you get caught in that, and it's a difference between. I was guilty of it, so I'm talking from experience. Showing that you can coach, showing that you've got ideas, showing that you can set up and organise, showing that you can maybe teach players something, which was the seed was sown. Listening to George Graham, if you've gone in, it was a little bit tongue in cheek because he was a winner, and winning was his raison d'etre. But he said if you can leave a club having shown players or a player something that they wasn't aware of before and teach them something, then you've done your job. So I think he's suffering a little bit from that. He's showing that he could take on board ideas from where he's been, namely as a player under Guardiola. He's shown that I want to set up this way. He's shown that he's got this football ideology. And yet they got done 2-0 at the weekend by Palace again. And I think they'll be gone by Christmas. But I think it would be very unfair because only they know, inevitably, only the people in the club really know what's going on at any club,
Sure.
right? And if they're not investing and if they're not bringing in better quality players who can play the way he wants them to play, or he thinks he can teach how to play because he's got this way that he wants to play from an ideology mindset, unless that happens, then like I say, I think they'll be gone by Christmas. They could even be going down, which would take some doing, with the lowest points total in Premier League history.
I think, let me just check my notes. So not quite rock bottom because of the goal difference. I think Sheffield United is still bottom,
Yeah.
and they got their first win at the weekend, obviously, which he could hecking bottom. I think it was arguably in one of the possible jump seats, but they managed to get a win. Fair play to them, and
yeah. But then if you're
bit,
above,
bit
like
contentious again, but
they used to say to me, yeah, but I was dealing with duplicitous individuals, and I was criticised for not being possibly self-critical of not being able to manage upwards, right? But if you're an underling, right, as in a manager, and you're under a board, the board's got to ask themselves, or the chairman, or the owners, they've got to, well, who are we going to get in? So that's your first thing. Who are we going to get? Who's available? Who are we going to get in? Who's going to do better with what we've got? Because this is our was the manager's remit, which they tend to do a U-turn on right at the start of the season, and this is how we're going to run the club, which is like hope for the best, but maybe cater for the worst. And if the worst happens, it ain't the end of the world. We get the parachute, and then we'll be set up as a top championship team, but bare minimum playoffs, possibly bounce back as one of the top two. So, I think certain clubs like that, they fall into that category.
yeah, Sheffield United, Burnley, Luton. I can't imagine they're going to sack the Luton manager. I mean, they were so close to winning yesterday.
Yeah.
I was genuinely gutted when Liverpool scored. I thought they were going to hang on to that, but
I'm seeing it as an image. I'm seeing it like from the outside looking in. Again, people don't really know what's going on inside the club. Only the people within those four walls. You know what I mean? But I'm saying this not from an envious point of view, but he comes across as very good PR, media friendly, very presentable, handsome, good-looking man. We spoke about Luton before, so my thing is behind the scenes with regards to the influence from Mick. I said to you in the last podcast, not part one of this one, but the last time we did
last
one,
week, yeah,
I said I might have to have a rethink because they've got that what I thought was reminiscent of that Wimbledon approach. They showed again at the weekend. They're physically tough, high energy, uncompromising. Showed that they're well organised. Showed that they can nick a goal from open play or set piece.
good goal.
Yeah, they might. You never know. They might pull it off. You don't know. I went for Sheffield before, didn't I? Because I was hoping after what they did to Gary O'Neill, I was hoping Bournemouth would be in the mix, and I thought Sheffield might have that, still City resilience and the thing that I used to come up against. You know what I mean? Is like rivet hard. They were rivet tough, and like I said, I might have to have a rethink. But I think, but like Burnley, rubber stamped.
Yeah,
Possibly Sheffield, and then I think it'd be out of Luton and maybe Bournemouth. I'll pleasantly
see.
Yeah, I think he's used good confidence building kidology. The Forest guy, and
Cooper.
obviously, yeah, I know. Obviously, got a thing there with because obviously Frank Clark, who was a European Cup winner, he was my manager for 6 years as a player, and then a bit as a coach. He became general manager, so. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on them because obviously I got that link, and he was a nice, likable guy, enjoyable to play for. and I think like their win at the weekend, yeah, they showed a bit more of what they're all about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was
I think
heavily
they beat
ironic. Yeah, with the Villa thing because the Villa that they sort of look to defend well, and if they can hit you on the break and they break at pace. Yeah, I couldn't understand, how they allowed themselves to be exploited so easily, Villa, because they played too high a line in relation to the ball. And
yeah,
it's a session in a small-sided game. It's a session in 11v11 when you're coaching kids. When to mark space, when to mark players, when to mark space. So obviously you don't go like glue tight to a player when the ball is pretty close. It could spin in and do you. You sag off and you give yourself a yard and a half. Like I've said in previous podcasts, you space off. And I didn't think that. It seems to me there's a lack of communication at the back and no leaders in terms of gauging the depth. So when, like me as a centre back, I was very good at bossing people, especially through the middle and last part of my career, because you gain more experience, you become more mature, and you've got a better understanding of the game. Although I had a good understanding of the game at Chelsea, which I had early success in terms of breaking into the teams at youth level, combination level, and first team. You boss the people around you to make life as comfortable as possible. But what you've got to do is take care of your own business, which is being able to gauge the depth in relation to the ball. And you're taught as a kid, don't go tight if there's no pressure on the ball. Don't hold a line if there's no pressure on the ball, and definitely don't try and squeeze up. You've got to sag off and gauge your depth. So and what you've got to try and do, Rob, is deny the spacing behind you. As well as being tight there, you've got to be competent enough to deal with what goes in there. So if it's played into feet, you get in, but you've also got to be in a position to be able to win the race if it goes in behind you. They left too much grass. They left too much grass in behind, and Palace exploited them.
Yeah, Forest. Villa seem, like you say, they seem to be almost religiously on. It's very well drilled, but it's, like you say, very very high line. And they seem to be on that no matter what. We spoke about it last week when we saw a bit of them in Europe, and we said it'd be an interesting game. I think we highlighted Spurs or Liverpool to play Villa. What a contest that could be with the high line versus the all out attack. But we shall see. Like you say, Forest managed to beat them. I think little fact. I think I'm right in saying that's the 70. I think there's 80 European Cup winners beating the 81 European Cup winners. Little bit of trivia. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will point out if I am. But a good win for Forest and into mid-table for them. Speaking of which, there's always that mini mid-table league which we've spoken about before. There's the sort of almost the one that it's not the Europe, it's not the relegation. There's the mid-table animosity, not animosity, anonymousness, if that's a word. Apologies.
Anonymity.
That's the one. Thank you very much. Teach me Shakespeare and English tonight. I'm doing well. I'm doing well here. I'm doing well. But no one seems to be really stepping up. It seems to be a bit yo-yo. No one seems to be stepping up and taking charge of that. West Ham had a good start, as we spoke about, and you've highlighted them as a couple of performances of the week early doors. But they've properly started recently. Fulham not really doing much. Brighton, I think, have a no win in 5. Palace are sort of nicking the odd goal. No one's really. Everton a little bit on the rise, but no. Is there anyone there you think is going to climb out of it upwards or drop out of it downwards at those sort of mid-table?
You never know with football. All I know is what I know, and it's like I've always said: every club should have its own agenda. And I said the club I was at, the biggest crime you can commit at any football club, whether you're the manager, a coach, or the players. Right, and I'll come to the manager and the coach, because it's all very well having your hands in your pockets and being all sort of sanguine and blasé and being relaxed with your post-match interview because you've got bundles of experience. But I think the players need to see that you're on them all the time. And if it's not you, you've got to give the coaches their remit to be on them all the time. They've got to know that you're watching every move. And I just think that West Ham performances, apart from it's certain individuals like Bowen, I think the relaxed thing is, I think it's seen their performances drop off a little bit. So the point being, you can't predict what teams are going to do and what teams ain't going to do. What I will say is, what I always said, one of the biggest crimes, which I said at the club that I was at, that you can commit is a lack of ambition. So that and that lack of intent. Now all of a sudden, 28 years later, people talk about, we train with great intent and great intensity. We play with attacking intent and we play with intensity. So, I don't know. I ain't saying as someone of high opinion of myself, I rating myself and ahead of me time. But it's funny how it's all come to the fore latter day, because I always said it back then. So what that means is every player, I believe, should have approached it how I did as a player, especially when I sorted out my early problems, or early in my career when I was in my late teens. But what I mean by that is the ambition and intent in training, which snowballs into ambition and intent and intensity into games, and you pick up results. The more you do that as a collective, the better it is. And whoever looks up instead of looking down will be the ones that push on. You understand what I mean?
Yep,
Like you
sure.
said, it's a mini league itself, right? So there's certain teams, it's like, which I've already think I ain't going to repeat all of it. I think they're more or less earmarked to be down. So now you want to keep them at a good arm's length, which I think they're doing at Forest, and then it's about pushing on. Well, I think the Forest guys done a marvellous job. I really do. And then the teams in and around that, like you said, your West Hams, etc. Even Chelsea in that category, I don't even know what are they. What was they before tonight? 12th, 10th? I don't know.
They're in the bottom half of the table. They could go into the top half if they win tonight.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about looking up rather than looking down. You're not going to be involved in a relegation battle, but then your ambition as a player, your intent as a player, your intensity as a player, and then all of that as a staff, then all of that again as a club, I think will determine where you end up. Yeah,
Seems fair enough to me.
Yeah,
Common sense don't always prevail, but sounds common sense to me, John.
yeah.
We want to try and introduce a bit of a feature like performance of the week. If we whether that's a player, whether that's a club. So who stands out for you this week as on either category, player or club? Anyone leap off the page? For me, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. For me, it'd be a toss-up between the Midlands Derby and giving it to Forest, and I'm 100% being slowly but surely proved wrong. Luton, in terms of their attitude, their application, they rode their luck. Liverpool should have been out of sight. They should have been dead and buried, but they rode their luck. You had the thing 50 pence Ed from Mo. You normally put your mortgage on him to score there. He had the 50 pence Ed, then it's gone, and then that's a mindset. They did say it on Match of the Day, 100% correct. When you coach it, it's a mindset, and your mind's got to be ready for it in terms of your technique. See, there's two people go, oh, great skill, right? Skill is different from technique. Skill is the ability to perform the technique, right? And you've got to have the mindset to perform the technique, which all he had to do was get over it and put his laces through it, and the net would have been bulging. So Luton rode their luck. I thought they showed a magnificent attitude, an appetite for so I'd give it to them. It's just a short head over Forest.
Yeah, difficult to argue with that. Difficult to argue. As we are broadcast, we've got 2 or 3 minutes left. As we are recording this, we are missing a very, very good and very lively game by the sounds of it. From what little bits we have.
It was ever thus. Even when we played in the South East Counties Div 2, South East Counties Div 1, I can still remember it like it was yesterday, right? And the football combination, and I played them in the League Cup. That was at Chelsea. I played them in the League Cup when I was at Orient. It was always an occasion to play Spurs. It just depends what Chelsea turn up.
It's as we speak, Chelsea are 2-1 up.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. See on my phone, but look, it always does seem to be a rivalry. I was talking to a very loyal follower of yours on Twitter last week, Chelsea Dan.
Oh right, yeah.
Obviously, his name gives me away somewhat. His allegiance, it's not a trick. and he's very, very passionate Chelsea, and
Yeah,
yeah, he's pretty much reiterated. We spoke about this game this weekend, and
right.
he was very much like yourself. Spurs was Spurs
There
is
was
the
always an edge. There was always an edge. You know what I mean? And this, I don't even know what it's about because there was a lot goings on off the field as well. But on the field, there was always an edge to it, and who knows why? Maybe just a London thing. I don't know. But I always thought the result tonight would depend very much on which Chelsea's team turned up. What I mean by that in terms of the way they defended, their attitude and application, and whether they were going to create anything going forward. But yeah, I mean, if it stays like that, that's an unbelievable result, and it might help Poch and the players turn the corner a little bit.
quite possibly, like you say, looking
Yeah,
upwards, could move them in the top half of the table. Who knows? A little while to go yet, I think, but I think possibly if we manage to record one next week, it might take up a fair bit of time. Chelsea, Tottenham,
yeah, yeah,
looking at
yes.
some of the instances.
Okay.
We've got about a minute to go, John. So if you want to do a very quick summary of anything.
No, all I'd like to do is it's thank the listeners and subscribers who've stuck with us, and if you can spread the word, hopefully even if it's just one thing, every time we do one, we can point out something that maybe somebody else has not seen, not recognised, or not brought it up in the mainstream media, or made a point that nobody else has, which I like to think we have done.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you've done that on both episodes tonight, and hopefully everyone can see that. So thank you again from me, and John, I wish you good night.
Yeah. Cheers, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Good
Cheers
night now.
all. Good night.
Bye.